Look, I'm not a real opera director. I don't think directing one opera makes you an opera director. I'm not so sure that the second one does the trick either. But that's not what I'm really after primarily. My goal doing this is not becoming an expert opera expert, meaning fully in command of the opera tradition. I'm not entirely ignorant, especially of the opera tradition, of the opera tradition, because that's what you see, and the opera tradition does not necessarily imply 19th century. I would call opera tradition something that might have been established 30 years ago, 20 years ago. It's become a tradition. You notice my let's say attempt to avoid the word convention. Anyway, a mode is very quickly established, initially as avant-garde, then as contemporary, and then more or less as habitual. Now, I'm not saying that the profession or the job of the opera director is to doggedly follow that, but if you kind of if you sort of move within the status quo and within the establishment, then more or less inadvertently you will be subjected to more of that, and the more of that tradition being exercised, the more of a convention it will be. So I'm not trying to avoid it. I'm not trying to adapt to it. I'm saying, you know, my view is, let's call it fresh, for lack of a better word, by default. Not because I'm a genius, and not because I'm an ignorant, but because I'm not an opera director. You notice that what I'm trying to do is sort of have the fact that I'm not an opera director turn into an advantage.
Mm-hmm. But what attracted you to Falstaff? Is it the
Look,
music, the character,
everything.
The comedy itself?
Everything. Absolutely. And really everything about Falstaff is fantastic. It is primarily the music. That's why I want to do that in the first place. The music is, I've probably heard the whole thing by now, I don't know, 150 times, maybe more. Every time I get more excited about listening to it. The story, you know what? It can be a funny story. It doesn't have to be. And if you decide that it is, then where's the fun? Meaning, where's the comedy? What's a conflict? What's a drama? What's a tragedy? I don't think there's comedy without tragedy, as much as I don't think the reverse is true. The characters, the interplay of the characters, which then you could say makes the story, and I would agree. Literally everything.
Were you, as a theatre actor, once in the Shakespeare Falstaffs in Henry IV, Meer Wives?
I never played any of the Henry V or Henry V or any of the Henry IV or Merry Wives. Mm-hmm. I think it's safe to say that it is an accepted fact that that Merry Wives is not necessarily Shakespeare's strongest play.
Mm-hmm. So what makes Verdi makes it better?
Verdi makes it better. I hesitate to say, you know, it's pretty chutzpahdik to say, well, it makes it better than Shakespeare. But I think Boito did a fantastic job in not making Shakespeare better, but really, you know, sort of condensing the three plays where Falstaff is an important character into one. And use the advantages of all three of them and lose the disadvantages.
He's more likable than in Shakespeare?
No, likable not, you know, it depends on your perspective on the story anyway, you know, it depends on your predilection and your inclinations, you know. Even during Shakespeare's time, Falstaff was immensely popular. That's really how Merry Wives came together, because he became such a popular character in the two Henry plays that it was actually a commission by Queen Elizabeth who said, I want to see him again in another play. I mean, she said it more posh, yeah, but anyway.
She wanted to see him fall in love.
No, the weaknesses, the character frailty, the pompousness, yet the humor and the underlying philosophy are immensely attractive and interesting. You know, that it's not a buffoon, it's not an idiot, it's the man lives on a different level. And who's to say whether that level is higher or lower? You know, I personally think it's higher, but.
And because of the music, he gets like a second life. Like the character is this corpulent, older man down in his luck, but in the music of Verdi, he becomes young, frivolous, playful again. And young again.
Well, it's a spirit. I think. No, I agree. It's a spirit. But you know, Boito wrote the story and the dialogue, and Verdi gave it spirit and soul and excitement and exuberance at times, and it goes up and down. You know, and it's not. It's like a real person. Immensely
music is a character.
Yeah, I think music is almost beyond the character. Music is the inspiration.
Is that why you think, what you said in the introduction, I want to give full attention to the music?
Absolutely, it's the secret's in the music, and that's really what attracts me to opera. It's it gives the story, the soul, and it gives it as I said before, you know, in relation to the characters, it gives it the spirit, and the as a result, the inspiration to the listener.
Because in contrast to Rosenkavalier, no dogs, no parrots. Not a lot of crops.
I haven't decided yet, you know. I'm kind of eyeing a dog right now. No.
A bit with a dog. Yeah. But it's a very pared down production.
Well, it depends. Yeah. Well, I would the attempt and experiment is really to do away with everything that we don't really necessarily need to tell the story. I really try to discipline my approach to avoidance of interpretation. It's, you know, interpretation, I mean, it's in a way, it would be a long discussion. In a way, it's almost unavoidable, but I really like to distance myself from interpretation, and I shy away from it. I think, you know, Verdi and Boito don't need my interpretation to be great.
So the audience can make their own interpretation?
That's what it's all about, you know. I mean, they're coming to see what I think, No, they're coming to see what they think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why would I come and see what you think?
Well, I mean, because that's kind of almost a futile pastime. You know, the actual thing is, you know, reaches into our humanity. It's the music that achieves that. It's not my directorial's ideas. So, you know, clear the space for what's essential and make the experience to hear it immediate. Yes, it's theater, so we need, you know, we need the drama on a stage, absolutely. How much of it do we need to experience the music, the essence? And that's what I'm interested in. How much can I do away with and still, to make the experience an inspired one?
Most of the cast, most of the soloists, they're role debuts. Does that help in this way? I mean, they know Falstaff, they've seen it, but
yeah, which
blank canvases.
Unfortunately, yeah, well, that's a moot point. The blank canvas. I don't think it exists, not even in children. No, but because, you know, that's when we're talking about tradition and convention. Having seen it and having been impressed by it actually already does the damage, so to say. But it certainly, you know, for all intents and purposes, I would assume that it is easier to start from scratch, so to say, than undo other conditioning before we do ours.
Our young ensemble is also part of Falstaff, Things on the Line with Marcus and what's your experience working with them?
No, they're fantastic, and I depend on them, you know, because as I said, I'm not a real opera director. I work with them, meaning behind them, so to say. You know, directing can mean several things, and it depends on the person and the experience of the person and the knowledge of the person. But still, for someone like me, it can be, you know, directing, meaning showing the direction. I will not, you know, force them to do anything, and I'm much more reactive, I think, than proper directors would be. Yet that doesn't mean that I don't know the direction that I'm pointing at, you know, that I want them to follow, and that I help that everybody goes in the same direction. But lastly, I think the director should direct the audience's attention to the music. Because for me, that's where the opera is happening.
Coming back to the story, you've just finished your first movie as a director, Georgetown.
Kind of first, yeah. It's actually a second, but it doesn't matter. You know, first is a better story.
With a great cast, for instance, Red Grave, Annette Bening, you as well. About a person, about a man who marries a wealthy woman to get into politics. Sounds so. Is it coincidence? Or
no, I don't think there is a correlation. No, because well, actually, I never thought about it. It could be, but Falstaff, I don't think is a manipulator. I think Falstaff is a universe, and that's why he's so attractive, because he's such an integrated, centered, and balanced in a way. Yeah, he has his ups and downs, but overall, you know, when he has depressing moments, he manages within, I don't know, you know, let's say half a minute to pull himself out of it, and not just through biochemical aids like alcohol. It's his philosophy that takes hold of him and turns an unpleasant or humiliating experience into something else. And he's absolutely right with the result, because you know the burghers around him can't cope with it. It's their problem, not his. And in my movie, it was more or less the other way around.
Falstaff is brutally punished for his actions and his deeds.
Yeah, well, one second, sorry to interrupt. For what action? What deed?
Exactly. And my point
he's punished.
He's punished.
Yeah.
And justly so, or according to you? Or?
Well, let's go and see it.
Yeah.
Definitely not. As I said, the others have the problem. You know, nobody ever says no to him.
Yeah.
They punish him right away.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it's not an angel. It's not a morality tale.
No.
But it's a very, very modern story.
Yeah. Just flashes to what happens now today with people getting punished in the media for what the despicable things that they did to women.
Well, yes, but you know he hasn't even done a despicable thing to women. You know, but yeah, you could draw that.
Where actually your trial by media.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, there it's trial by rumor and hearsay. It's your second time here with our company. Why do you choose working with this company? Why not make opera in Berlin or Vienna? It's closer to home. No. I'm afraid of repertory. First of all, the conditions in the repertory theater are less than ideal, because you get the stage late and you get it for half a day, and then you have to leave because they prepare for the evening. People in the ensemble do other things at the same time. So Stagione is concentrated. I like it. I like smaller theater, opera, stage, really. You know, it's the whole machinery to be personal rather than official. You know, the big opera houses are like corporations, big corporations. You know, it's not. If I'd be a career director, yes, of course, my goal would be to do Vienna, Met, Covent Garden, Scala. I think, you know, okay, you know, given this my situation and circumstances, and the proportion would be completely out of whack. Me in Vienna, you know, I feel that the balance is more harmonious in a theater like this, size-wise, because look, the people I work with are first class. Not everybody might be a star. It's very difficult to work with stars anyway, because you work with their stardom and not with their craft. This is much more focused, much more to the point, in let's say a framework that I don't feel threatened by.
What would your next opera be?
I don't know. I don't know. Right now, this is enough for me. Falstaff, and on the 14th of December. Please God, then I start thinking about the next one. But I don't intend to not start thinking about the next one.
Right. Okay. Is there anything else our audience should know when they come and see Falstaff?
Oh, absolutely. Exactly what days the performances are, so that they're not going to miss it.